Fortunately, when I started publishing it, um, the voice was heard by, I think it was heard globally. These kind of visualizations are really easy to do. I would not say really easy, but I would say they are more convenient to do using AI than going through the traditional systems. So with AI, how we can maintain coherence in the images is something what I was trying to um, experiment with here. So with AI, I mean, there is a lot you can do. So I'm trying to do here is explore new styles of architecture, new forms of buildings. But with AI, you can just ask the right question and get so many options out with the rendering, that challenging aspect of the rendering, which people struggle with. But with these new age AI tools, you can directly convert the 3D into renders or your hand sketches into renders.
A warm good evening from the Architect's Diary. Today, we have with us Manas Bhatia, an architect and digital artist from Dehradun. Manas earned a Bachelor of Architecture degree from Manipal University Jaipur and possesses a robust background in graphic design and visual communication. Manas is passionate about exploring the potential of artificial intelligence in architecture and design. He has created several innovative conceptual projects using AI imaging software such as AIxfuturecities and Symbiotic Architecture, which gained global recognition. It's an honor to have you with us today. And without further ado, we can begin with an interesting presentation from your side, followed by some question answer session.
Thank you, Simran, for that wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. Okay, so I'll just quickly
Yes.
present my screen. Please let me know if the screen is visible, if the slides are visible.
Yes. It's visible.
Okay, all right. So I have a very quick presentation, and I have just like sort of put my works and whatever I thought was interesting to share with you. So, yeah, so here we go. So I'm starting the presentation with my the oldest works that I created, and I used Midjourney back in 2022, and it was like newly launched. And this was like the first project which I called AIxfuturecities, and the entire concept was to imagine a utopian future where skyscrapers would essentially be will be covered by plants, and they would act as air purification systems for the cities. And moving on to the second project, which was symbiotic architecture. So the concept was, if we could have buildings that can grow, maybe change the materiality of the buildings in a way that they can breathe, and they mimic a tree essentially, in their nature, in their form, and in their function. So, Symbiotic Architecture and Future Cities were the two initial projects. And uh, fortunately, when I started publishing it, the voice was heard by, I think it was heard globally, and people sort of started relating to these concepts since they were very, green, and they were unique, and somewhat surreal, in a way that they cannot exist right now, but maybe they can inspire the future generations, and maybe they can inspire the people who are working in material sciences to somewhat develop these kind of technologies in the future. So yeah, so they were well received by people all over the globe, and they were featured in a lot of platforms, design magazines, including CNN, Design Boom, and then Design. Uh, Even got to some radio channels in countries like Korea, and in TV shows like Art TV, which is featured in Europe. And recently, the works were also featured in a documentary which was released by PBS, which is based in the United States. So yeah, I mean, just seeing how people reacted to these kind of concepts was itself quite surreal for me. Uh, but then definitely it gives some hope as to where we are heading towards in the field of architecture, and the future looks really green and promising. So yeah, these are like some images from certain exhibitions where these works were also displayed, including recent. The left two images are from a recent exhibition which is still going on in France, and the extreme right images are from the previous year. This was a part of the Venice Biennale in 2023. And apart from these personal concepts, which I keep creating now and then, I also was commissioned by Google last year to create a set of images. So each image was basically a world, you can say, and they had commissioned me to create a set of 30 worlds, which each world had a different concept, and it was related to uh, some fashion trends, futuristic fashion trends, which were analyzed by Vogue Business. So they gave me a list of all the trends, and then each trend had to be reflected through certain images. So this was a huge project, and like I got a big break from this project itself. So these are some of the images, some of the concepts that I created. And moving further to the experiments which I keep doing. So if you look at the top left image, here I'm trying to visualize the same space in different kind of lighting setups, and this is done using AI, specifically LookX and Midjourney, used in combination. And even the bottom left image, you can see that there is a shift in the lighting system. So these kind of visualizations are really easy to do. I would not say really easy, but I would say they are more convenient to do using AI than going through the traditional systems. And on the right side, you can see that I've tried to maintain consistency in the images. So the concept which I used to create a view of the building, which was basically golden ratio, I tried to mimic the same concept in the products, like the clock and the sofa and the table, which you can see. So with AI, how we can maintain coherence in the images is something what I was trying to um, experiment with here. And then moving on to more technical stuff, how AI can be used to actually create Python scripts, which which I basically used within Grasshopper to create parametric designs. And then from those parametric designs, I used AI to directly visualize how the building would look in real life, so as to create the photorealistic renders. So this was a workflow which I was really interested in, and I'm still exploring this. And I have some videos which talk about the same. So the first video, you can see that the tower, how it forms, how it twists and turns, and all these frames were created using LookX. But to create these frames, I had to follow the conventional process of parametric design using Grasshopper. Uh, but to make the 3D in Grasshopper, I used a lot of ChatGPT to help me with the Python script. And the process was much faster and easier as compared to if I would have written the script on my own from scratch. A second video is a similar example, a simpler form, I would say, again rendered using LookX. And the third video is actually a part of what I am doing now at Columbia, where we are using a lot of procedural modeling, a lot of generative design to visualize small like townships. Uh, how they would change according to the street grids, how they would change according to the building heights, etc. And whatever generations I had, I used LookX to sort of visualize them in photorealistic way. And moving on to again more conceptual imagery. So with AI, I mean there is a lot you can do. So what I'm trying to do here is explore new styles of architecture, new forms of buildings. So in this case, I have tried to combine the vernacular style of architecture with a more fluidic and futuristic style of architecture, just to visualize these new forms of architecture which may be executed definitely in the future. And like going to brick architecture, exposed brick architecture, and how we can combine that style with a more fluidic and organic style. And in this, I was trying to basically reimagine our ancient stepwell systems. So on the left hand side, you can see the stepwells have been reimagined as modern complexes or modern plazas. Uh, and on the right side, I have just tried to use these images of the stepwells that we already have as reference in AI tools, and in order to create new courtyards, new spaces for recreation that are inspired by stepwells, but uh, they may offer a different narrative altogether. And um, yeah, so with AI basically, I think the main fundamental is that what kind of questions you are asking. So it's not just about creating surreal images which may seem very experimental, but also to visualize what would happen if like I were to make some interventions in the current cities. So let's say if how would I visualize if Indian roads had canopies over them in order to shade the roads. So as we all know that the temperatures are rising, and if you're out there, if you're going to your work and you're stuck in traffic, then it's horrible to wait at that red light. So what if the roads could be shaded? And I could have just created these in 3D modeling, and I would be limited to a couple of options. I mean, it depends on the architects and designers how many options they want to explore. But with AI, you can just ask the right question and get so many options out, and then from there you can move on to analyze what options work for you, and maybe then create the 3D model for them. So asking these kind of questions: what if we had bamboo canopies that covered Indian vegetable markets, so as to make these markets a landmark for the city and not just ignored and negative spaces? Then how would you reimagine the current bus stops that we have in India? So, like as far as I know, like in major cities, they are still using those metal bus stops, and they definitely get heated up uh, during the day, and also they are not very visually pleasing. So they are kind of ignored spaces again, I would say, in the city. So what if we use bamboo and brick to reimagine these spaces so that they become more lively and people start using them more often? So these kind of questions is what I'm interested in. And then again, going to other use cases of generative AI. So we can convert our 3D models to renders, can take screenshots from our modeling softwares like Rhino, and use different models to create photorealistic renders within minutes, uh, bypassing the conventional rendering techniques which we use, like when we use V-Ray or when we use Lumion. It takes time to make the setup in in creating the foreground, the background, and then the main challenge is to get the settings to work in a way that the renders come out really photorealistic. So that's like a really challenging thing of the rendering, the challenging aspect of the rendering which people struggle with. But with these new age AI tools, you can directly convert the 3D into renders or your hand sketches into renders. So you don't even have to go through the 3D part. You can just directly make a sketch, convert it into photorealistic renders, pitch to the clients, and if they like the way things are moving, maybe then you can detail them out using your CAD and 3D softwares. So some examples of how we can do that. And the bottom right image is actually really interesting for me as to how you can directly take inspiration from nature and try to visualize architecture inspired from that. So here I have tried to use an image of mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, and just converted it into how a building would look like if it was inspired by mushrooms. So like limitless possibilities are limitless. You can just convert anything to anything, and this is where the design process becomes more creative, I would say. Some other examples of images that I've been creating, and they all follow a particular theme, which is very utopian, organic, nature inspired, and because that is like, I would say, if I had a practice, um, I would. This is the kind of buildings that I would want to create. So each person could have a different thought process and different way of creating designs. So this is me, utopian and very nature inspired. But just to push my limits, I've also been doing other kind of experiments. So let's say this organic brick house, which recently got really popular. um, so this is like few of the works that I've been doing, and towards the right you can see that there is a building which is, basically the idea was to again merge fluidity with typical jalis that have been like used in Rajasthan for centuries. And yeah, I mean, these are the kind of works that I've been doing. And at the end, I would say that when people talk about whether AI is going to replace them, and I know we are going to talk about this in much more detail, but I just have a quote which I wanted to share. So it's not the strongest of the species that survives, because we know what happened with dinosaurs. They were the strongest species back then, and nor the most intelligent that survives. It is that the most adaptable. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. So even as designers and architects, we have to see that if we are adapting to the new technologies, if we are changing with the times, or if we are stuck in our conventional methods. And the quote itself is really powerful, and it's by Charles Darwin. So yeah, I think that's it for my presentation.
It was a really wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for that. And you
Thank you.
rightly said, I mean, I think it's time that architects and designers are not afraid of AI anymore and try to understand how it works and how it helps us to better our creative process. So I
Mhm.
think with such discussions or such works which inspire people, people might definitely start to get friendlier with AI rather than being scared of what it will do to them.
I really hope so. Yeah,
I'm really like I've been following your work since a long time, and it's really wonderful to watch all those works that you have done, and it's really commendable.
thank you so much.